Money Shark Club.
What is the problem with following your passion? Everyone's told that they should follow their passion. What's up with that?
Well, sure, but just keep in mind that the person telling you to follow your passion is already rich usually, and they made their billions in iron ore smelting. And I think a lot of young people mistake their hobbies for passion. And my suggestion is that you try and find your talent, and that is something that you think you have some natural ability around, and that with a requisite 10,000 hours of commitment, training, discipline, that you could become in the top 10% or even maybe the top 1%. And here's the key part: in an industry that has a 90+% employment rate. Because the top 10% of tax lawyers fly private and have a broader selection set of mates than they deserve, the top 10% of basketball players like me get cut from JV basketball like me in the 10th grade. So you want to go where a modest surfer can look amazing, where the waves are great. And the waves are great in 98% of industries. 98% of industries have a 90+% employment rate right now. But if you want to be in modeling, sports, open a nightclub, open a restaurant, be in acting, be in the arts, I don't want to crush anyone's dream, but you better be getting pretty bright green lights from a very young age that you're in the top 1%, because there are 180,000 actors in the SAG-AFTRA union. These are the most talented actors in the world. And last year, 87% of them didn't qualify for health insurance because they made less than $23,000. And what I have found as I've gotten older is that the ability to master something and become a ninja at it, and then the accoutrements of that mastery, relevance, camaraderie, prestige, economic security, whatever provides you with those things makes you passionate about whatever it is. And the example I use is I'm renovating a house, and this Iraqi immigrant is the soapstone guy. Everyone renovating houses in Marylebone knows the soapstone guy. And he knows all the quarries. He's very passionate about the different marbling and the different colors, and he talks to you, and it's almost like poetry listening to him. And he installs the soapstone counter for 18,000 pounds, right? And we all have to use him because he's the soapstone guy. And I talked to him very openly. I told him I wrote a book on financial literacy, and I asked him about his business. He makes 1.2 million pounds a year. And that type of, and he's just really passionate about soapstone. And I have noticed, I'm sure he'd be interested in it, but I think this has given him such an extraordinary living that he's become really passionate about it. And what I would argue is that as you get older, you become really passionate about taking care of your kids. You become really passionate about doing wonderful things with your spouse, taking care of your parents, and your priorities change. And I feel like, okay, if I could change spots with Federer or Nadal, I would. I think they have a more interesting life than me. But the number 7 player on the men's tennis tour, I have a better life than him, because I get to go to Wimbledon and buy my way in, and I don't throw up before matches or have to put up with the insecurity of like, okay, if I don't make it to number 1, does that haunt me the rest of my life? Am I gonna have enough money? So guarantee that you might be the 7th or 8th best tennis player or football player in the world by developing mastery in a business where there's not an overinvestment of human capital. And so, your 20s is for workshopping. I thought I was going to be an athlete. Got to UCLA and found out, no, these are real athletes. Scott, being in the top 10% in high school is in the bottom 10% of every college D1 team in America. And then I thought, well, I'll be a pediatrician. And chemistry just abused me of that notion. And then I thought I'll be an investment banker, and I just wasn't very good at it. And then I found something else. I found analytics and business intelligence. I didn't even know those things existed. And I became great at it. And now I'm passionate about it because it's afforded me with an amazing life. And what I would just say is use your 20s to try and lean into your talent, and recognize that a lot of times these vanity industries just have an inverse correlation in terms of ROI. The sexier the industry, the lower the return on investment. And if you can get great at anything and start making real money at it and just develop that pride of ninja mastery, trust me on this, you're going to become passionate about it. So find your talent.
I like the idea of your passion coming out of competence. If you become good at something, on the other side of that, you're going to be passionate about it, because anything that you get positive reward from, like you say, the soapstone guy, like, is it that glamorous? Like, kind of. I guess if you tell a cool story about it, pretty fucking glamorous if you bottom line 1.2 million pounds a year, though.
Well, and we're fascinated with this guy. He turns our kitchen into a work of art, or at least he's convinced us that this is now a work of art. And he gets relevance, he gets credibility. He has a lot of people working for him that are grateful to him. I think he feels good about paying a lot of taxes. I think he feels really good about having influence and being able to send money home to his family in Iraq. And all of these things will make you passionate. And as I've gotten older, yeah, I would love to play quarterback for the Jets right now. That'd be a lot of fun. But I'm not exaggerating. What's funner for me and even more rewarding is I get to take care of my dad. And it's like no skin off my back. I can step in. My dad's at that age, Chris, where he's just requiring a decent amount of, not a lot, probably a lot less than most 94-year-olds, but he's 94. And my sister can step in because she has more time than me, and I can show up because I have money. And it just feels really good. It just feels really good. And, if you find someone who really inspires you, or an issue that really inspires you, you can, it makes me feel strong like bull to be able to give money away. I don't do it because I'm philanthropic or a good person. I do it because it makes me feel strong. And this is the power of mastery and kind of ninja skills in a capitalist economy. And the thing about America and the UK is that, especially America becomes more like itself every day. And that is, it's a loving, generous place for people with money, and it's a rapacious, violent place for people who don't have money. And my book isn't about what should be, my book is about what is. And I think this is especially important for men, and distinctive what, MSNBC or The Atlantic will tell you. I still advocate for men taking economic responsibility for their household. And let me be clear. Sometimes that means being more supportive of your partner who's better at the whole money thing than you. So if it ends up your wife, as are a lot of women now who are attending college in greater numbers, ends up she's better at the whole professional money thing than you, then your job as a man who took economic responsibility, or at least wants to participate in it, is to be supportive of her and get out of the way. My partner worked at Goldman Sachs when I started my company, and I did my best to be there to get the kids up and be home for bath time, because I knew, okay, she's a baller, and I want our household to be economically robust. But I think a good place to start for any man is to say, I'm going to be the provider, or I'm going to take responsibility for the economics here. I think every man should start from that viewpoint. And anyone that doesn't tell you, or anyone that claims that your ability to attract a high character, a really good person who's really attractive as a mate, a woman, and tells you that money is important, is just full of shit. 3/4 of women cite economic viability as a key criteria in a mate. Only 1/4 of men. You've heard the stats. Men, I think I've learned a lot of this shit from you. But let's just have an honest conversation that if you ask men what's important to you, all right, I want to have a family. I want to be relevant. I want to attract an interesting mate. I want to have camaraderie. I want to, be a good citizen. Well, boss, it all bubbles up to the same thing. You need to make a good living. And so the question is, well, how do you reverse engineer from what is a good living? And I'll never be a good skier. I'll never be a good surfer. But what I find when I'm in Hawaii, I'm actually a pretty good surfer because the waves are perfect. Get to where the waves are perfect. Get to an industry where if being in the top 10% doesn't get you a SAG-AFTRA union card and basically turn you into an Uber driver, but gets you the ability to have a really nice car and take wonderful vacations with your family. So I think economic viability is just so incredibly important for everyone, but quite frankly, especially for men, because men are disproportionately and sometimes unfairly evaluated on their economic vitality. Women are disproportionately and unfairly evaluated on their aesthetics. And I'd like to see the world change. I don't see it changing. I see the bullshit wallpaper that, these things aren't as important. And I find that they have not decreased one bit. As a matter of fact, I think it's actually increased in importance, because the reality is, when I was a kid, my dad's boss had a slightly bigger house, but he lived in the same neighborhood. He had a Cadillac, we had a Thunderbird, but it was still kind of the same car. Now, if you have money in the US, different doctors, different schools, a set of vacations and hotels that are just totally out of reach for all but the top 1%. I'm working, I can't get my passport for England, and it ends up that I know the right senator. I mean, money just gets you in a capitalist society. I remember I did the proverbial backpack trip when I was younger, and we were going to Hungary, and this will date me, but I went into the American Express office and cashed in with my wallet belt some traveler's checks, and they gave me this stack of foreigns. I mean, just a huge stack. I felt like a drug dealer. And I'm like, finally I'm a baller. I'm going to go to Hungary and I'm going to have all this money. And I went, and there was nothing to buy. There was literally nothing to buy. You could get really good coffee. And I thought, okay, there's nothing to spend. We're the exact opposite of that. Every day, the most talented people in the world are sending you messages that are AI tested and psychologically tested to convince you that you really should add that chocolate flowers cake from Balthazar Boulangerie to your, tuna cotto from Joe and the Juice. That, wait, for just $120, you can upgrade from economy to economy comfort. And then for $280, why not to business? This is a fun weekend. This is your friend's wedding. You deserve it. This is an investment in yourself. So you are fighting an uphill battle trying to save money such that you can deploy an army of capital that fights for you and your family in your sleep. It takes real discipline because there's so much amazing shit to buy in the United States. Now, the flip side of that is if you do have some discipline and you can aggregate capital and become an owner instead of an earner, which should be everyone's goal, America just offers just an incredible quality of life. It both amazes me and depresses me. And the example I use is the following. I took me and my son and his 6 best friends. Occasionally I just have to show up and be dad. My partner just carries so much more of the load on the responsibilities, but occasionally I have to show up. So Okay, Disneyland, seventh ring of hell. I'm going to take our kids and their friends to Disneyland for the full day. Have you heard about this VIP tour you can get?
I've done it at Universal Studios, but not at Disneyland.
Okay, so you know what it is. But basically, it's about $800 an hour. So 6-7 hours. It's $6,000. $6,000. But you do it, and granted, I'm going to raise like enormous assholes, right? Or incredibly privileged. And you go to the Avatar ride, and you see a sign. And the sign says 3-hour wait from this point. So they could pass out an iPad with a movie Avatar, and you could watch it before you get to the front of the line. And you see these middle-class families with 3 kids, with dad holding the 4-year-old who's been asleep for 2 hours, and they still got an hour to go. And then we, the really privileged and lucky ones, kind of just like lower our heads and walk by them. And then we're told when we get on the ride, here's the hand signal if you want to go a second time. I mean, the experience I have at Disney is just so dramatically different than the experience I used to have when I was a kid. And by the way, I'm not sure it's a good thing, but we're doing that to every part of our economy. Every part of our economy says, if you have money, this is going to be a different experience, even though it's supposed to be the same experience. And there's some real externalities to that, but just the healthcare you can get if you have money. I'm struggling with my shoulders, and I'm just so glad I finally have some money to kind of just attack it with physical therapists and acupuncture and stuff. I'm like, this stuff would have been covered by insurance, or it just would have taken me so much time. But anyways, I'm both kind of, I'm discouraged when I see how important money has become in the U.S., the financialization of everything. But that's not what the book is about. The book is an acknowledgement that if you really want to enjoy your life and offer everything that America has, you need a concerted, disciplined plan for financial security.
What you really need is vitamin M, money, McLaren, Mercedes. Subscribe.